ladies and gentlemen, I'm GC Smith, and welcome to part 3 in my pre-beta Mr. Pandaria coverage. Today we'll be covering one of the really big additions to World of Warcraft, and that is our Kung Fu friends, the monks. In this video I aim to cover some of the lore, as well as some of the gameplay aims Blizzard have for the monk, as have been disclosed. I'll post in the description the time where we really cover the mechanics and in-game effects of the monks, for those who aren't really bothered by the lore. The video in the background is me failing at PvP on my Fire Mage live, so just in case you're wondering. I just got bored of using the images I'm using for my previous video. I don't see just to use the same pictures over and over again, doesn't seem much point. So anyway, to the lore. So what are the monks and why are they being added now with Miss Pandaria? Firstly, monks are masters of martial arts, that is to say, weaponless combat. Think of Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, or Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris being an apt example due to the latest adverts at the Super Bowl, with Chuck Norris displaying a new human model with some of the new monk animations. But how did monks occur? How did a class of unarmed warriors come to exist in a world where they are surrounded by heavily armed soldiers, dragons, and creatures of various degrees of disgustingness and horror? To find out, we have to go down to the origins of the monk, ancient Pandaria. Imagine, thousands of years ago, a mysterious land far different to that the Azerothians call home. Lush, dark green plains, weird plants, and all exciting forms of environment. There, the Pandaren, a peaceful race of panda-like people lived. But so did a more sinister, some might call evil race, the Mogu. The Mogu were a race not too dissimilar in looks to the Orcs, but unlike the Orcs' relatively peaceful shaman ancestry, the Mogu were far from peaceful. They rose up and enslaved the Pandaren, and used them as slaves to build and maintain their empire. As slave masters, the Mogu were prudent. To stop their slaves leading any kind of revolt, the Mogu never let the slaves anywhere near weapons, thus ensuring no slaves became skilled with arms. However, the Pandaren were not to take this line down. They developed fighting techniques which required no weapons, Kung Fu. They learnt to fight with their fists effectively and efficiently. They planned a coup and took their masters by surprise. Because the Mogu thought themselves invulnerable, because there was no weapons that could defeat them. The coup was successful, and the Pandaren pushed them to an eastern part of the island and placed them behind a huge wall, similar to Hadrian's Wall or the Great Wall of China, to contain them. And thus the Pandaren became enthralled with martial arts. So how have the more recent races become monks? Well, similar to the end of since the end of Cataclysm, the veil of the mists have been broken, and the Pandaren have wandered the world again. The Pandaren have encountered both the Horde and the Alliance, and have decided to teach them the skills of martial arts. And many Alliance and Horde were eager to learn. After all, they probably heard tales that these ancient creatures were telling when they appeared from the mist of how easily, how they overcame their masters or their slave masters without any weapons at all. And obviously some of them thought it'd be quite interesting and help in the war against the other faction. The Horde v the Alliance, or the Alliance v the Horde. Anyway, to more gameplay issues now. So, what races can be monks? Well, every race that isn't Worgen and Goblin, so humans, gnomes, dwarves, Draenei, Blood Elves, Orcs, Tauren, Trolls, any races I missed, I'm sorry if I missed them, can be monks. Basically, there are reasons of Worgens and Goblin not being able to use them. There's technical issues. You have to kind of redo the models and animations to be able to do monk combat moves, and they've just recently redone, set them up in Cataclysm. Don't want to have to redo them straight away again. There's also the fact that kind of lore, as the Worgen and the Goblins were coming into the world, so were the Pandaren. Kind of the Cataclysm itself broke the Veil of Mists, and it was at that kind of time where the Pandaren came around just as well. So that's why only Worgen and Goblins can't be monks. So in-game, monks can be all three roles, in a slightly unique way compared to any other class that's already been them: DPS, healing, and tanks. First of all three roles share a similar unique resource system. It's a twofold system using chi and force. Chi is similar to rogue energy. It is what I shall use by what I shall call primary or tier 1 abilities. These abilities, similar to like Sinister Strike of the Rogue, they're used to generate force for other abilities, and this force will be either light or dark. Now, force is, as I say, force is used to cast more secondary abilities, tier 2. They're stronger abilities like finishing moves similar to the rogue. And it can be light or dark force that uses those abilities. It could be one or a mixture of both. Chi abilities, or at least the chi abilities we've learnt, will generate both dark and light. I guess there will be some chi abilities that only generate dark and some that only generate light. But if you've got the standard ability that generates, say, that uses like 40 chi, and chi does regenerate like energy, it uses 40 chi and generates 20 light, 20 dark. Now, if you've got an ability that uses 20 light and an ability that uses 20 dark, you've got two abilities you can use from that one chi ability while the chi is regenerating, or that ability is on cooldown. But however, you may have strong, powerful abilities. They will need more force. You need to use more chi abilities to build them. You may have chi abilities that are powerful but only generate one kind of force. So you have to kind of, when you're doing things like damaging, tanking, you kind of have to, and healing, you have to balance between which abilities you use. So do I use this ability that's, say, more powerful but only generates light force, or do I use this one that's slightly less powerful, generates both light and dark, and gives me enough ability to use later if I need it? And those kind of things are going to be interesting things for gameplay mechanics. Now, we don't necessarily know how whether chi will degrade at all. Like, will it like rage degenerate outside of combat, or will it have a slow degeneration in combat? Considering there's not chi, force, will it degenerate? So that'll be interesting to learn. But say each role is slightly unique, again, beyond that ability. DPS, they're going to be kind of unique to any other physical damage class so far, because they're the only physical damage class without an auto attack. So they don't automatically attack. The only attacks they do are your abilities. They're trying to make it a bit like Street Fighter, from what Blizzard have said in a quote. Bear in mind, though, that while spellcasters, because I said they're the only physical class without auto attack, spellcasters do have auto attack, but they never use it. So I guess it will be similar to playing a melee spellcaster in some way, because you don't actually use the auto attack and it's not part of your main DPS. Again, they're also different because they don't use weapons. Apparently they'll use some weapons and, say, finishing moves, so it's kind of their basic moves are all like the martial arts they've been learning for centuries, and then the finishing moves are, say, maybe them adding things, learning from other races. So they've learnt from the Alliance and Horde to use weapons, and they utilize some weapons in big flourishing finishing moves. Tank, again, is different to other tanks in the game. It doesn't use a shield, so it's similar to a Death Knight in that respect, but it doesn't use a weapon either. Also note that so basically it will have to kind of rely on dodge more than, say, parry or block. Well, we don't really know how it'll work yet. We do know the name of the spec is called Brewmaster, and the idea is, I guess, it's like a kind of drunken fighter. So he will be quite an interesting spec, actually, I think, especially when the monk itself has been rumored to have like stances that you switch through, so you can have drunken ox and names of like martial arts stances, I guess, that have, well, they sound martial arty but not real martial arts. Now healers, monk healers are again unique. Basically, while in healing spec or healing stats or whatever, they will gain mana bar. They will have mana as well as their chi and force. Or at least Blizzard have said they should keep their chi and force, which would be interesting because now you've got three systems. You've got mana and chi and force. And the idea from what Blizzard have said, they have two kind of healings: melee healing and range healing. Now the range healing will work similar to other other range healers, just using mana for their standard range healers. It may be if you choose to be a range healer, like maybe that there's when you choose the spec. I mean, druids are getting 4 specs. They're getting 4 specs in Cataclysm, so maybe they'll get 4 specs and they'll split the healing into 2 different specs, melee and range. And the range healer will gain mana, and basically abilities that used to cost chi will cost mana instead and generate force alongside with the cost of mana. So they'll kind of act like normal healers, the ranged monk healer, but will use chi and maybe use chi and probably use force most likely alongside the mana, and they'll keep some of its unique healing effects. The melee healer will definitely, from what I've seen, I've heard, will use chi and dark and light energy force. Basically, what they'll do is one of the effects they can do to heal and buff and whatever is they'll spread statues at points throughout the raid, and basically as they do damage or certain abilities, these statues will heal for a certain percentage of the damage done. So it may be because they don't want these healers to do too much damage. Or it may be like 400% of your damage done is done to nearby targets as healing. And it could also be you've got abilities that say when you use this ability, one target standing near a statue gets a bubble put on it. Or you can have special finishing moves that set up a special statue that does things in addition to the 3 or 4 other statues you've already got. Basically, statues like totems, the shaman totems, except you choose where to place them, and they heal nearby people when you do damage and do special abilities. So it definitely looks like it's going to be a very interesting role to play, especially interesting class to play, and I definitely will give it a shot in the beta and give you some footage and show you how I see it being played. They have the prospect to be one of the most interesting classes in the game and with in gameplay and lore. They're definitely going to be quite fun to play, I reckon, and fun to see and fun to fight against in PvP. So anyway, that's it for this episode of pre-beta Miss Pandaria stuff. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe with the button above, and please feel to post any questions or general comments below. And till next time, I'll see you, and I hope you have a good time. I hope you watch my next few videos that come out when they get done.